What is up, NFL fans, and welcome back to another episode of the NFL Whip Around. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Coach Kevin Smith. Coach, what is going on?
What's happening, Jeff? Hoping for the weather to break. I don't know, man. I've been antsy to get outside, play a little of your sport, little
Oh,
golf.
yeah. I was out for the first time this past weekend. Just took my son out, hit some golf balls. It was beautiful weather, but it's a roller coaster this time of year. You get those 75-degree days, and then it's followed by a 45-degree day, so you never know what you're going to get.
Exactly.
But it's turning, and we're slowly getting closer to the NFL draft. Before we do that, we're in another one of the NFL's rare lulls where there's not a ton of stuff going on with free agency dying down. So let's talk about some of the free agent moves that have happened already. Let's start with one I think it's an interesting fit. We spoke a little bit about this last week, and that is Justin Fields going to Kansas City. It's a weird marriage, in my opinion, but I want to get your take on, do you think Justin Fields maybe finally found a home with the Chiefs? This is a difficult question based on the health of Patrick Mahomes. What's your take?
I like the fit. I like Justin Fields with Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, around Mahomes and Kelsey and those guys. I think structurally it'll be really good for him. You know, I looked up Justin Fields' starting record or a record as a starting quarterback, 16-37, which is awful.
Yeah.
But he goes 12-35 with some bad and dysfunctional Chicago teams and the Jets. And the one competent franchise he was with, the Pittsburgh Steelers, he went 4-2 and actually played some decent football. So it kind of begs the question, if you surround Justin Fields with some good weapons and some structure and some coaching, can he be successful? Small sample size in Pittsburgh, but the suggestion is that, yeah, he can.
Well, let's back up the card a little bit before we talk about potential in Kansas City. And let me ask you a very simple question. Do you think, or let's rephrase this. How many games do you think he starts for Kansas City, if any at all, this year?
Well, that's a great question because you don't really know where Mahomes is in terms of the rehab. Is he on track to start week one? If he's not, it's kind of ideal that you'll know that ahead of time, or at least you have a pretty good idea, and you'll be able to prepare Justin Fields throughout the summer. I mean, if you're going to start Justin Fields, week one's a perfect time to start him because your opponent isn't going to have any film or any idea what you're going to do with him. And again, like we said, preparation time will be ample throughout the summer. So I think I like it, man. I like the fit and how creative you can get with him. And now you got Kenneth Walker in that backfield, and you can pound away at teams and now use Fields' athleticism to get him on the perimeter in a small setting. I think he could be successful there.
All right. Follow-up question. Let's say that he doesn't start a game and Patrick Mahomes plays in week one. Do you envision a situation outside of a potential tush push that they take Patrick Mahomes off the field and put Justin Fields on?
Not really.
That's
Although here's the thing though. Andy Reid has shown himself to be exceptionally creative. And he'll make use of various weapons. He's done it with the backup tight end where he's used him as a wildcat at times. He even used Kelsey as a quarterback every once in a while. So I'm not taking, if Mahomes is healthy, I'm not taking him off the field. That's just stupid. Right.
Yeah.
But I would think about trying to figure out a way to get Fields on the field with Mahomes, because I think then you've got some really interesting options.
The hesitation that I have, and we as Steeler fans got an up close and personal view of this with Justin Fields in Pittsburgh in his 6 starts that he had before Russell Wilson was healthy back in 2024. He's not accurate with the football. He doesn't do well with like those timing patterns. A lot of his success are off of broken plays. I recall when he was with Pittsburgh, everyone was like looking at their gaudy red zone offensive statistics. And the reason is that he would just run it. They would be in the red zone. He drops back, uses his athleticism. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm talking about the processing issues and the accuracy issues that he's had that have plagued him his entire career. I don't know, Coach. At this stage of his career, is it fixable? I don't care if it's Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. Is it actually fixable at this stage?
I don't know if it is, if you want him to be your franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
But again, give him smaller sample sizes, structured environments. If he's got to start 2 games, I think Justin Fields can win you 2 football games in Kansas City. And just to double back on what we were just saying, I love the idea of you get into the red zone and now you go to a package where you've got Mahomes and Kenneth Walker in the backfield and Justin Fields out there somewhere in the slot, in the backfield with the two of them. You motion him around, you move, he comes in motion. You're on a jet sweep with an option to throw the ball off of it. That would be a huge headache for a DC just to have to prepare for that. I mean, even if nothing else, if you could just clutter up the DC's agenda, his practice time by making him prepare for a whole bunch of crap with Justin Fields somewhere on the field, I think that's worth it.
All right, to wrap this up, I'm going to make a statement, and I want you to say whether you agree or disagree. My statement is that Justin Fields' time as a potential starting quarterback or a long-term answer in the NFL are done. That his time is up. If anything, he's a gadget guy. He's a backup quarterback. Agree or disagree?
I disagree. Here's why.
Okay.
I think he's going to have some success in Kansas City. Not anything spectacular, but enough for a quarterback needy team. And we know that there are going to be quarterback needy teams. There always are, to bite. And to be able to hey man, I'll give him one more chance. Maybe we can reclaim. Oh, look what he did in Kansas City. Maybe we can get something similar out of it.
Your interesting New York Jets stat of the day is that they have over $40 million locked up in Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields on the 2026 cap.
They are paying more money for quarterbacks to not play for them than they are to quarterbacks to actually play for them.
Oh, to be a Jets fan, be a Jets fan. Okay, let's transition to the next topic, which is we're going to try and predict following players and where they're going to play in 2026. So let's do this one at a time. Let's start with quarterback position. Kirk Cousins he's currently a free agent. He's clearly waiting to see what happens with a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. There are other options out there like the Arizona Cardinals. Coach, where are you predicting Kirk Cousins plays football in 2026?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think it'll be Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be Rodgers there. He could go be a backup with a chance to start in a place like Arizona. Maybe he'll land there. I'll tell you what, there's 2 teams that if I were those teams, I would make a hard pitch at Kirk Cousins, and that's the Chargers and the Seahawks. Because the Seahawks obviously just won the Super Bowl. The Chargers are a playoff contender. Right now, LA's backup quarterback to Justin Herbert is Trey Lance, which I would not be comfortable with. He has not shown that he can play the position for an extended period at all.
Right.
And Seattle's backup is Drew Lock, who I don't think is very good. I mean, if I were the Seahawks and I had a Super Bowl caliber roster, I would say, let's get Kirk Cousins as some insurance because he went 5-3 as the starter in Atlanta last year, won 4 straight games down the stretch. So Kirk Cousins can still win you football games at 38 years old. And if I were a playoff caliber team with a bad backup, I would go all in on him.
I think the question that you have to ask, and Kirk Cousins has to be thinking this, where can I play?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, he could go to those teams that you mentioned and be a good quality backup, and it would make a ton of sense for both of those teams. But if I'm Kirk Cousins, and especially if I'm his agent, I'm saying, look, man, we want you to go to a spot, even if it's a 1-year deal, where you will have a legitimate shot of playing and potentially starting. I'm going to say he goes to Arizona. I think the Cardinals, there's no way they can try and get support for their new regime, their new coach, by Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew being their quarterbacks. It's just not going to bring people to the stadium. Kirk Cousins at least has provided success. And I think that unless they don't want him, I think that's the best fit for him because, again, he wants to go to a spot where he can actually play. I'll throw out another team, though, that if you're going the backup route, he might be interested in it. And I'm not so sure because I know they traded Andy Dalton. Carolina's backup situation is definitely interesting. Maybe that would be a team with Bryce Young and he could see an opportunity there. I don't know.
You don't like Kenny Pickett there as the backup? No,
yeah.
No,
I don't. But I forgot that he went there. He went there.
This was my call sheet episode on Monday was all about backup quarterbacks. So I've done a lot of research on this subject in the last 48 hours. Kenny Pickett has the second best record as a starter for current backup quarterbacks in the NFL. The only backup in the league with a better record as a starter than Kenny Pickett, who's 16-11 as a starting quarterback, is Jimmy Garoppolo. So Am I saying that Kenny Pickett's the answer? No, but you could do worse as a backup.
Okay. So you think pick one. Where's he going?
Cousins?
Yeah.
If he wants to play, I think Arizona's the best spot. Yeah. If you want to chase a ring, go to Seattle. Or go to LA. One of those.
And I mean, when you think about if between the two, LA would be more fitting because Justin Herbert has had health issues and has missed sections of seasons because of those issues. So, okay, Kirk Cousins out of the way. Let's go to the next one. This is really intriguing with the rumors that have been swirling. Let's go wide receiver AJ Brown, coach. What do you think?
So I live in the Philadelphia area, and the Philadelphia fans are like in tune and locked into this. I had a buddy text me on Saturday, and he was like, all caps, by the way. The text was in all caps. So that tells you something.
He was yelling
at me in text. The text read the following: lock it up, AJ Brown to the Patriots post June 1st. And then he gave me a lot of reasons as to why it had to be a post June 1st deal, etc. There's been a lot of that buzz that Philly just thinks they can't really repair the Brown Jalen Hurts relationship or the Brown Sirianni relationship, that something has to move. And it's not going to be Jalen Hurts or Nick Sirianni. And that if you're going to trade AJ Brown, you need to do it now while he still has a couple years left in his prime. New England, obviously they're swinging for the fences right now. They signed, Romeo Doubs, however you say his name. And they still need some receiver help. That seems like a spot where it could be feasible.
Do you predict that, or do you think he's back in Philly?
I think he's going to get traded. I do.
I do too.
I just think it's too combustible for them to run that back.
Again, it has to be before the draft, though, in my opinion. So you can talk about like post June 1st and all this stuff. The Eagles are going to need to get a receiver, and this is not a bad draft class to get a receiver. They're going to need that draft compensation to do so. I'm going to go with New England, though. I think, like you said, New England has they look at Drake May as the answer. I mean, he's proven that he can win football games. We'll see what he does with some adversity this upcoming season when the schedule gets more difficult for them, but they need the receiving help. And so last year, when you looked at the receiving core, I mean, who was it? It was Booty and Diggs and really not what they do. So you get Doubs from Green Bay in free agency. If they can get AJ Brown, it's going to be a better cast of characters. Who do you think would benefit most from that? Do you think the Philadelphia could somehow benefit most by getting rid of the distraction of AJ Brown and maybe getting some compensation for him?
I think, again, as you said, you have to be able to work it so that you can draft a replacement.
Right.
Very good wide receiver class, as we've said. You move Brown, you've got financial flexibility. Maybe you pick up a veteran. There's still some decent veteran wide receivers on the market. You're probably not going to get 1-for-1 value, but if you go 2-for-1 draft pick and a free agent, then you might be able to make it work. The other thing, real quick, I'll just mention this is remember, AJ Brown played for Mike Vrabel in Tennessee,
right?
And I think that connection. I think AJ Brown has had some issues in Philly, but I think Mike Vrabel would feel like I can coach this guy. I can get this guy to fit in.
Well, it doesn't help. I'm sure you saw the clip of him, AJ Brown, going on Julian Edelman's podcast with Rob Gronkowski, and they were kind of winking at the Patriots. Something's up. But I predict Patriots. You do too, is yes?
Yes.
All right. Let's go to another receiver who's currently still rehabbing his knee injury after surgeries plural. Tyreek Hill. I don't know where or when, but what's your prediction?
I mean, Kansas City's always an option because they need receivers, and he's got history there. I read Detroit has some interest, which I thought was interesting. You look at their style of play, and they want to space the field and get out there, the ball in the perimeter and let playmakers make plays. That makes a little bit of sense. Whoever takes him on, though, is got to be somewhere where they feel as though they can both A, fit him in, and then B, manage him. Not that he's had he hasn't had issues in a clubhouse, so to speak, but he's had off-field issues. So you need a structured organization. I think a guy like Dan Campbell would feel like, hey, I can handle Tyreek Hill. Certainly Andy Reid. So wherever he goes, I think it's got to be obviously for need, but also for fit. Fit will be big with him.
So I think about teams that could use a guy like Tyreek Hill. First and foremost, I don't think this is going to be done before the season starts. I think his rehab is going to push this back. It could be closer to like October when he's ready to return to football activities. So okay, that gives him the opportunity to kind of pick his suitor as a okay, who started out well, who gives me a chance to win. Of course, getting the band back together in Kansas City makes a lot of sense because they're going to know how to use him. You mentioned the familiarity. If I were to pick a dark horse team, if the Chargers that you already brought up, and this kind of got me thinking, if the Chargers are a team that they don't have much explosive, there's not a lot of explosion in their receiving core, we'll put it that way. Like Lad McConkey is great, but he's not that guy. He's
Right.
not taking the top off. And they do have some other people, but it's just not the same. They were relying on Keenan Allen last year. If they're vying for the AFC West, I could see him potentially in going to the Chargers. You talk about Harbaugh out there. That's a leadership group that could probably keep him in control. I don't know. What's your prediction for Tyreek Hill?
I kind of like the Detroit connection. It
Okay.
makes sense to me, but I think you're right. He's probably going to wait and see how his rehab goes, and then B, what are his options? Because you might get a really good team that loses a wide receiver to an injury in September, and now suddenly they become a contender.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, so let's go to the last one. This is an interesting topic because JJ McCarthy now seems to find his way back into the backup role once again after the Minnesota Vikings bring in Kyler Murray. What do you think about JJ McCarthy? Does he stay in Minnesota or do they try to move him?
That's interesting. If I'm the Vikings, I'm going to listen to offers because right now you have Kyler Murray, who I think they brought it. They didn't bring him in to be the backup. They want him to be the starter. They want to know what they have in him. You've signed Carson Wentz, who's a functional backup. You got Max Brosmer, who's a kind of your prototypical number 3. Where's JJ McCarthy fit in? I mean, if you think he's going to be the backup, okay. If you think you can still develop him, fine, keep him. And then you'll just figure it out between Wentz and Brosmer. But if not, you can get value for him, man. He was a first round pick in 2024. You can get significant value for him. I don't know what you can get exactly, but if you don't think that he's part of the solution going forward, move him. Don't bury him as your backup.
I hear you. I understand what you're saying, but if I'm a buyer, I'm looking for JJ McCarthy. If they're shopping him, I mean, Kevin O'Connell's one of those guys now, right? Isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Jones spends a little bit of time there and talks about how it helped him so much when he went to Indianapolis. Sam Darnold spends time there and it turns it into success in Seattle. If Kevin O'Connell is giving up on a quarterback, that's buyer beware. Like that is giant red flags going up. And I'm thinking, do we really want to put any draft stock or capital or anything into this guy? The answer for me is no. I think if I'm the Vikings, yeah, I understand parting ways with him because if it's just not going to work, it doesn't work. But I don't think that he goes anywhere based on the fact that Kyler Murray's on a 1-year deal because after this year, he's going to try and cash in again. And they might say, if we don't get Kyler Murray back, we want to see if we can actually turn this into something. I'm going to predict he stays. What about you?
I agree. He'll stay because yes, Murray's a gamble. But I'm still listening to offers. If somebody came along and blew me away, then I would think about it.
Okay, if someone comes to you and says, "We will give you a second round pick in 2026 and a third round pick in 2027," are you accepting that trade of JJ McCarthy?
Boom. See ya.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's a great value. That's a great value.
Yeah. I feel like that's steep. I feel like that's probably too much. That's too rich for a guy that has done absolutely nothing in the NFL.
And from what you hear out of Minnesota, is that the issues are a little bit deeper than initially thought. That the processing and the figuring it all out in real time is a significant issue. And as Kevin Stefanski once told me, 2 things that are really hard to fix are accuracy and processing. They're kind of things that like you kind of have it or you kind of don't.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to our next topic. We're talking about the NFL draft, and there's a running back that is being considered as a top 5 selection. We're talking Jeremiah Love out of Notre Dame. He's being mocked to the New York Giants at number 5 overall in the draft coming up at the end of April. Do you think a running back is worth a top 5 pick in today's NFL, coach?
Yeah, there's like 2 interesting angles here. One, I'm seeing this over and over. Love to the Giants. Love to the Giants. That's why? Because they got Cam Scatterbo and they have Tyrone Tracy. That's a pretty good 1-2 punch at the running back position. But maybe they feel like, hey, if we could get a cornerstone guy, we're going to take him. But real quick, here's your list of running backs that have been drafted within the first 5 picks over the last 20 years. So I'll read you a list and then you can tell me, is it worth it?
Okay.
Reggie Bush, Darren McFadden, Trent Richardson, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Saquon Barkley. Bush, McFadden, Richardson, Elliott, Fournette, Barkley. Those are the only 6 running backs taken with a top 5 pick over the last 20 years.
I mean, history says no.
Right.
Because even Saquon Barkley, who went to the Giants out of Penn State, was not effective in that organization, in that system. We think of Saquon Barkley now. We think about the success he's had in Philadelphia. Yeah, it's a no. But again, the Giants are turning into a dysfunctional franchise, and so you wonder, like, are they going to make the same mistake again? Do you think they will?
I mean, Harbaugh loves a certain style of football. Yeah. And if he could pair Jackson Dart with a physical downhill runner like Jeremiah Love, I think he'd be very tempted to do it. And I look at that list. All those guys had moments in the NFL. You know, Bush had a couple of moments, couldn't really stay healthy. McFadden had a couple 1,000-yard seasons. You know, Elliott did some good things. None of them, though, said, hey, you got the value that you should expect out of a top 5 pick.
Right.
And I think that is something that you really have to think about. But the interesting thing is, like, if he doesn't go to the Giants at 5, he could slide all the way down out of the top 10 because, you know, Cleveland picks 6. They got Judkins. They don't need a running back. Washington's got tons of needs elsewhere. The Saints are at 8. They just signed Travis Etienne. Kansas City's at 9. They just signed Kenneth Walker. The Bengals are 10. They got a million needs on defense. And Miami's 11. They've got, Achan, David, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, okay. It is. Yeah.
So then you get to Dallas at 12. Jerry Jones 100% would be all in on Jeremiah Love. But it's interesting, right? Is he if he's not at 5, he might come all the way down to 10. And if he gets out of the top 10, you might see teams leaping up to try to come get him.
This is interesting, and this is why I always say, you know, you listen to these draft nicks, and I say draft nicks because it's local media, it's national media, it's team specific media. They always say, like, this guy's a top 5 pick. Okay, but there's only 5 players that are top 5 picks every year. Right. And if one guy, like you said, if Love doesn't go to the Giants at 5, he could fall out of the top 10.
Right.
And so the NFL draft, this is why it's must-watch television. And this is why I think that it is one of the best events that doesn't even involve playing a game that you can think of, because you have no idea what's going to happen. Could a team trade with the Giants and go to 5 and get Jeremiah Love because they covet him? And you're thinking, wow, like, they just gave up all that capital. It's just like the Jaguars last year when they traded with the Browns to go get Travis Hunter, who ended the year on IR, and now they're wondering, like, what is this guy going to be in the future? Things like that happen. Do you think that a team would trade into the top 5 to get him?
Well, think about it like this. Here you have the Bengals at number 10.
Yeah.
They are awful on defense. What if a guy like Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles, one of these elite linebacker edge players who are supposed to, Reese is supposed to go number 2. Well, what if he slides down to number 5? And you're Cincinnati and you think, oh my God, we could get Arvell Reese. And you say, let's call the Giants. And if I'm the Giants and I look at the draft board, I go, well, I don't think any of those teams at 6, 7, 8, or 9 are going to take Jeremiah Love. We can move back to number 10, still get our guy and acquire a bunch of other assets. So, it's that fascinating. It's so fluid that it's really hard to try to, pinpoint it ahead of time.
Well, you say the Cincinnati Bengals trading up. I could see them trading up for an offensive player just because that's the dysfunction of the Bengals. Let's just keep loading on offense and we'll make it happen. But okay, we'll keep tabs on that as we get closer. Pro days start to come about. Rumors are swirling. We'll be talking about the NFL draft for sure in the coming weeks. All right, I want to touch on this briefly. In case you didn't notice, this past weekend, Team USA's flag football team, that is the official flag football team, went against NFL players, both past and present, playing in, a game, tournament, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, Coach, what were your thoughts on this, first and foremost?
I have no interest in this whatsoever. And you know, Jeff, you know me. I'm going to get excited next week when the UFL starts.
I know
You
you
know,
will. Yeah.
I will, and I'm going to ask you to talk about it on this show, right? And you're going to be like, "Oh, Jesus."
The Masters is coming up.
Yeah, man. I love football, but real football. I don't have any interest in flag football. And I looked at Team USA's roster. I didn't know a single player on the roster, and I can't remember or recite for you a player on the roster. And yet they smoked a whole bunch, a bunch of current and former NFL players.
Well, I will say this. So as a kid, I did grow up playing flag football because we didn't have tackle football when I was really little. So we played flag. And then when I was out of high school and college, I started playing intramural flag football. And then that turned into playing in some adult league flag football leagues. First and foremost, it is a different game. Okay. But if you have people that are used to running and hitting, and now all of a sudden they can't run and hit, they have to pull a flag. And in which case the ball carrier is able to move their hips in a way that can make it more difficult to pull the flag. When you saw just even clips on Twitter of these professional flag football players, you could see that the NFL players like Luke Kuechly, there was one point where he got called for holding because he got so frustrated. He just grabbed the guy, took him to the ground, and then pulled his flag. He was just like, what is this? Yeah. It is a different game. It is completely different. But let me say this. If I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, just as an example, there was a play where Joe Burrow kind of awkwardly went to the ground. They had to be like literally getting ready to puke. They have invested so much money into this guy who can't stay healthy anyways. And he could go out there on a flag football field and tear his ACL, hurt his toe again, doesn't matter. And you had Jaden Daniels playing wide receiver. Again, the Commanders have to go, what? No, don't do this, coach. There's got to be a risk reward here. And I just don't see the reward being worth the risk. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, I agree totally. I think we are 100% on the road to teams putting these things in guys' contracts. Like you can't play flag football. And now they're talking about the Olympics in 2028 because flag's going to be an Olympic sport. And some of the NFL guys talking about, Burrow said, I'd love to play in the Olympics. I could absolutely see teams being like, no, you're not. It's going in your contract. You can't play because, the risk is just way too severe.
It's too severe. And again, they just got smoked by these professional flag football players. Right. Again, if I'm the U.S. and I want to win gold, the NFL player is going to draw eyeballs, but they also are not as good at this sport. So, all right, we'll be talking about flag football, unfortunately for you, coming up. Let's finish this up with a player profile. Right before we hit record, Jackson Smith-Njigba cashed in big time, and he becomes the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. He signed a 4-year, $168 million deal. And it's hard to believe. I had to remind myself, this guy fell to pick number 20 the year he was drafted. And a lot of people remember, the Steelers picked 21st in this upcoming draft. And some people say that the talent's going to be gone. Players do fall, and sometimes really good players fall into your lap. What do you think about this deal for JSN?
Yeah, highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. Is he the best wide receiver in NFL history? Of course not. No. But he's a tremendous player, coming off of a Super Bowl run, offensive player of the year in the NFL. I mean, the time was now to cash in. And this is just the way it works. If you are the current, if not best at your position, but you're the person who's up for the next big bag of money, then you get more than anybody else has ever had. And Jackson Smith-Njigba will hold this title for a little while, and then somebody else will come along for their extension and they'll beat them, and it'll just keep going up, up, and up. I mean, hey, congratulations, man! $168 million. It's generational money, and I would never begrudge anybody for getting what they've worked their whole life for. But at the same time, it's also just so head shaking. You're just like, my God, the amount of money we're doling out is absurd.
And it's like you said, it's not going to stop anytime soon, because as the salary cap continues to increase, there's going to come a time when, and we said this as Steeler fans, when TJ Watt signed his contract before last season and he was getting $40 million a year. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is insane. But those that follow the cap and follow contracts say, don't worry, in 5 years, you're going to say, what a bargain. And it's already starting to look that way. But again, good for JSN cashing in. Like you said, his stock will probably never be higher. And he does. He cashes in on a big time deal, and the Seahawks lock up their best offensive weapon after losing a lot this offseason. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, Coach, let's get out of here. What's coming up on the call sheet this week?
Well, actually, I'm going to ask people if you didn't catch Friday's episode, double back. Really fascinating conversation with my brother-in-law, who's a world-class mountaineer and is about to embark upon a trip to Mount Everest, where he and his partner is actually going to summit or try to summit. Ted's going to climb part of the mountain, but he's summited multiple peaks of over 20,000 feet across the planet. And the conversation is really about mental toughness in athletes. And when you listen to some of the stories that he tells about things he's endured on these mountains, you get an unbelievable appreciation for the mental challenges that elite athletes face. So that was a really good, really interesting conversation on Friday's show.
Go check it out. I did listen. That was a great episode. So that's wherever you get your podcast by searching the Call Sheet Daily with Kevin Smith. And check out our work at Steel Curtain Network and steelcurtainnetwork.com for all our podcasts there covering the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Coach, thanks for your time as always. We'll be talking next week. Take it easy.